Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the USS Liberty, watching the massive space station grow larger on the main screen. The Galactic Council station looked like a giant metal city floating in space. Ships from dozens of alien races surrounded it, each one bigger and more impressive than his own vessel. "Captain, we're being scanned again," said Commander Lisa Rodriguez from her tactical station. She had been watching the sensor readings for the past hour. "That's the 5th time since we arrived." Jake nodded but kept his eyes on the screen. The Liberty was small compared to the alien warships around them. While their ship measured only 400 meters long, some of the alien vessels stretched over a kilometer. The difference made Jake feel like a mouse surrounded by elephants. "They're curious about us," Jake said quietly. "Can't blame them. Humans are the new kids on the block." The Liberty had been Earth's first ship sent to represent humanity at the Galactic Council. After 50 years of sending radio messages and pleading for membership, the aliens had finally agreed to let humans join their community. Jake felt the weight of representing his entire species. Communications Officer Danny Walsh turned around in his chair. "Sir, we're getting docking instructions. Bay 47, Section C. Take us in nice and easy," Jake ordered. As they approached the docking bay, Jake could see alien crew members working on the station. Some looked like giant lizards walking on 2 legs. Others had too many arms or eyes in strange places. A few glowed with their own light. Jake had studied the files on different alien races, but seeing them in person still amazed him. The Liberty settled into its assigned dock with a soft thud. Jake straightened his dress uniform and checked his appearance one last time. Today would make history. "Commander Rodriguez, you have the ship," he said. "I'll be attending the council meeting with Ambassador Carter." Lisa nodded. "Understood, sir. Try not to start any wars while you're gone." Jake smiled despite his nerves. "I'll do my best." Ambassador Helen Carter was waiting by the airlock when Jake arrived. She had been Earth's top diplomat for 20 years and spoke 6 alien languages. If anyone could handle the politics, it was her. "Ready for this, Captain?" she asked. "As ready as anyone can be for their first alien council meeting," Jake replied. They stepped through the airlock onto the station. The gravity felt slightly heavier than Earth normal, and the air had a metallic taste. Alien languages filled the corridors as dozens of species went about their business. A tall, thin alien with blue skin approached them. "Ambassador Carter and Captain Morrison, I am Guide Nexus. I will escort you to the council chamber." They followed Nexus through wide corridors filled with strange sights and sounds. Jake tried not to stare, but everything was so different from Earth. Some aliens floated, instead of walking. Others moved on wheels or tentacles. The council chamber was enormous, with seating for hundreds of delegates. Most of the seats were already filled with representatives from across the galaxy. Jake and Helen took their assigned places in a small section marked for new members. "Look at them," whispered a voice nearby. Jake turned to see a large alien with scales and sharp teeth talking to his companion. "The humans brought only one tiny ship. How pathetic." "They think they can sit with real civilizations," the companion replied with what sounded like laughter. "Their vessel looks like a cargo hauler." Jake kept his face calm, but inside he felt anger rising. The Liberty might be small, but it represented the best Earth could offer. The council meeting began with the chairman, a floating jellyfish-like creature, calling for order. "We welcome the human delegation to their first council session. However, there are matters to discuss regarding their membership." Admiral Orcs of the Zalaxian Empire stood up. He was massive, covered in dark scales with eyes like burning coals. "Chairman, I must object to granting full membership to such a primitive species. Look at their pathetic excuse for a warship. It's barely larger than our shuttles." Murmurs of agreement came from several sections of the chamber. Jake felt his hands clench into fists. "The Corvalian Federation agrees," announced another delegate. "New members must prove their worth. We propose that humanity surrender administrative control of their outer colonies as tribute for membership." Helen Carter stood up. "Ambassador Corex, with respect, Earth's colonies are not bargaining chips. We came here seeking partnership, not subjugation." More laughter echoed through the chamber. Admiral Corex's eyes gleamed with amusement. Partnership. You have nothing to offer us. Your technology is centuries behind ours. Your military consists of one small ship that wouldn't survive 5 minutes against our weakest vessels. Perhaps, suggested a delegate from the Thraxian Dominion, the humans would be better suited as a protected species. We could manage their affairs for them. Jake had heard enough. He stood up slowly, his voice calm but firm. Earth seeks only peaceful cooperation and mutual respect. We didn't come here to surrender our sovereignty or bow to anyone. Respect must be earned, Admiral Corex snarled. What have humans accomplished? You've barely left your own solar system. Your weapons are primitive projectiles and chemical explosives. Your ships move slower than our cargo vessels. The alien continued his speech, growing more insulting with each word. Jake listened silently, noting how many other delegates nodded in agreement. They had already decided humanity was weak. After 2 hours of debate, the council reached its conclusion. The chairman announced, humanity will be granted provisional membership, contingent on their acceptance of Corvalian administration of their outer colonies and Zelaxian oversight of their military development. Helen Carter's face turned red with anger. This is not membership. This is conquest disguised as diplomacy. Take it or leave it, Admiral Corex said with a toothy grin. Those are your only options. Jake and Helen looked at each other. They both knew Earth would never accept such terms. We request time to consult with our government, Helen said diplomatically. Of course, the chairman replied. You have 24 hours to decide. As they left the council chamber, Jake felt the weight of failure on his shoulders. They had come seeking friendship and found only bullies who saw weakness where there was strength. Back aboard the Liberty, Jake called Earth Command on the secure channel. Fleet Admiral Henry Collins appeared on the screen, his weathered face serious. How? Did it go, Captain? About as badly as possible, sir. They want us to surrender half our territory and accept alien oversight of our military. Admiral Collins was quiet for a long moment. I see. And your assessment of their attitude toward humanity? They see us as weak, sir. Easy prey. Then perhaps it's time to correct that misconception, Collins said quietly. Stand by for new orders, Captain. It's time to show the galaxy what happens when you underestimate human determination. Captain Jake Morrison watched the sensor readings with growing concern. 3 massive fleets had moved to surround the USS Liberty as they prepared to leave the Galactic Council station. The ships formed a perfect circle around them, blocking every escape route. Captain, we're being hailed by Admiral Corex, Communications Officer Danny Walsh reported from his station. Put him on screen, Jake ordered. The alien's scaled face appeared on the main viewer, his burning eyes filled with cruel amusement. Captain Morrison, where do you think you're going? Back to Earth to deliver the Council's terms to our government, Jake replied calmly. Admiral Corex laughed, a sound like grinding metal. I'm afraid that won't be possible. You see, we've decided that humanity needs a more immediate lesson in galactic politics. Jake felt his stomach tighten. What do you mean? Look around you, human. Corex gestured with a clawed hand. The Zelaxian Empire has brought 50 warships. The Corvalian Federation contributed 70 vessels. The Thraxian Dominion added another 80 hunters. Over 200 ships now surround your pathetic little craft. Commander Lisa Rodriguez quietly updated her tactical display. The numbers were worse than Jake had feared. Each alien ship was larger and more heavily armed than the Liberty. They faced impossible odds. What do you want? Jake asked, though he already suspected the answer. Simple, Corex replied. You will surrender your ship and submit to immediate transport to our re-education facilities. Your crew will learn proper respect for their superiors. Earth will receive notice that their diplomatic mission failed due to human arrogance. Jake kept his face calm despite the anger building inside him. And if we refuse? Then we will demonstrate why primitive species should know their place in the galaxy. Corex's smile showed rows of sharp teeth. Your destruction will serve as a warning to any other upstart races who think they can challenge the established order. The transmission ended. leaving the bridge in tense silence. Jake looked around at his crew. Each face showed determination mixed with fear. They all knew the situation looked hopeless. Options? Jake asked quietly. Their ships are positioned in 3 defensive rings, Lisa reported. The inner ring has our heaviest hitters, including Orcs' flagship. The middle ring consists of fast attack vessels. The outer ring holds their long-range bombardment ships. Can we break through? Lisa shook her head. Not with conventional tactics, sir. They have us outgunned 200 to 1. Chief Engineer Betty Thompson spoke up from her station. Captain, I'm reading some interesting energy signatures from their formations. They're all running active scans on us. What kind of scans? Everything they've got. Weapons analysis, hull, composition, power systems, life support. They're trying to map every system on our ship. Jake frowned. Are they getting through our shielding? Betty smiled slightly. That's the interesting part, sir. Our hull composition is confusing their sensors. The quantum-bonded titanium alloy is reflecting most of their scans back as static. They're getting readings, but not the ones they expect. Danny Walsh looked up from his communications panel. Sir, I'm monitoring their fleet communications. They're sharing scan data, but none of it makes sense to them. One commander is calling our ship primitive beyond understanding. Another says our power readings are impossibly low for a functional vessel. Good, Jake said quietly. Let them underestimate us. Captain, Betty continued, there's something else. The experimental power core is responding to their scans. It's almost like it's feeding off the energy they're hitting us with. Jake raised an eyebrow. Feeding how? The quantum field generators are absorbing trace amounts of their scan energy and converting it to usable power. It's not much, but the core efficiency is actually increasing. Before Jake could respond, Admiral Korex's voice filled the bridge again. Human vessel, you have 5 minutes to surrender. After that, we will open fire. Jake stood up slowly. Danny, open a channel to Earth Command. Emergency priority. Sir, they're monitoring all our transmissions, Danny warned. I'm counting on it. The channel opened, and Fleet Admiral Henry Collins appeared on screen. His weathered face looked tired but alert. Captain Morrison, report. Admiral, we're surrounded by hostile forces numbering over 200 ships. They're demanding our surrender and threatening to destroy us if we refuse. Collins nodded grimly. I see. And their capabilities? Overwhelming, sir. We're outnumbered and outgunned by any conventional measure. Admiral Korex's laughter echoed through the communication channel. Admiral Collins, I presume. You should order your captain to surrender immediately. Perhaps we'll be merciful to such a cooperative species. Collins stared at the screen for a long moment, his expression unreadable. Admiral Korex, is it? Let me ask you something. In all your years of conquest, have you ever encountered a species that appeared weak but proved to be dangerous? Dangerous? Korex scoffed. Look at their ship, it's barely holding together. Our smallest fighters could destroy it. I see. Collins turned back to Jake. Captain Morrison, you are authorized to implement Protocol 77 Alpha. Authorization code Sword of Damocles. Jake felt his pulse quicken. Understood, sir. Sword of Damocles confirmed. What is this Sword of Damocles? Korex demanded. Collins smiled coldly. An old Earth legend, Admiral, about a sword hanging by a thread over a king's head. Sometimes the thread breaks. The transmission ended. Jake turned to his crew, noting the change in their expressions. Everyone aboard knew what Protocol 77 Alpha meant. Betty, bring the stellar compression system online. Jake ordered quietly. Aye, sir. Charging sequence initiated. Lisa looked at her tactical display with new understanding. Captain, they've positioned themselves in perfect formation for maximum effectiveness. Their mistake, Jake replied. They wanted to surround us to show their overwhelming force. Instead, they've gathered their entire fleet in the optimal target zone. Danny Walsh monitored the alien communications. Sir, they're getting excited out there. Admiral Korex is bragging to his fleet about how easy this will be. He's telling them to prepare for target practice. Let them enjoy the moment, Jake said. Betty, status on the compression system? Charging at 15%, sir. The alien scan energy is actually helping to accelerate the process. Their own weapons are feeding power to our systems. How long until full charge? At current rate, approximately 8 minutes, sir. Jake nodded. The timing would be close, but they had one advantage the aliens didn't know about. Humanity had learned long ago that sometimes the best defense was patience. Admiral Corex's voice filled the bridge one final time. Your 5 minutes are up, human. Surrender now or face destruction. Jake looked around at his crew. Each person was focused on their station, professional and determined despite the impossible odds. They trusted him to lead them through this crisis. Admiral Corex, Jake said calmly, humanity has a saying, don't count your chickens before they hatch. What does that mean? You'll find out, Jake replied, then nodded to Danny to cut the transmission. The Liberty hung in space, surrounded by hundreds of enemy ships, while deep in its core, forces beyond alien comprehension continued to build toward a moment that would change everything. The USS Liberty began to change. Captain Jake Morrison watched as sections of the ship's outer hull started sliding apart with soft mechanical sounds. What had looked like simple metal plating revealed itself to be sophisticated armor panels, hiding something underneath. Hull reconfiguration complete, Chief Engineer Betty Thompson reported. Stellar compression arrays are now exposed. Where plain metal had been moments before, crystalline structures now gleamed in the starlight. They looked like giant diamonds growing from the ship's surface, each one perfectly cut and positioned. The crystals caught the light from the nearby star and seemed to drink it in, glowing brighter with each passing second. Admiral Corex's voice crackled over the communications channel. What kind of trick is this? Some primitive light show to impress us? Jake smiled but said nothing. He turned to Dr. Carl Peterson, the ship's chief scientist, who was monitoring readings from his station. Doctor, please explain to our guests what they're seeing, Jake said. Dr. Peterson activated the general communications channel so all the alien ships could hear. What you're observing is humanity's approach to advanced warfare. While other species focused on building bigger guns and thicker armor, we chose a different path. Impossible, came a voice from one of the Corvalian ships. Our scans show your technology is centuries behind ours. Your scans show what we wanted them to show, Peterson replied calmly. You see, we learned something important from studying. Dead stars. When a star dies and collapses, it releases more energy in a few seconds than most civilizations use in 1,000 years. The alien chatter on their communications channels grew louder. Jake could hear confusion and the first hints of worry in their voices. We spent 50 years learning how to capture and control that energy, Peterson continued. Not from actual dying stars, of course. That would be impossible. But from living stars like the one right here. The crystalline arrays on the Liberty's hull were glowing brighter now. Streams of energy that looked like liquid light flowed from the nearby star toward the ship. The quantum field generators were reaching out across millions of kilometers of space, drawing power directly from the star's corona. This is nonsense, Admiral Corex snarled. No species can harness stellar energy for weapons. It's theoretically impossible. Theoretically, yes, Peterson agreed, but humans have never been good at accepting what's supposed to be impossible. We prefer to figure out how to make it work anyway. Lieutenant Commander Steve Adams looked up from his weapons console. Sir, stellar compression cannon is at 30% charge and climbing rapidly. Jake nodded. The weapon system was performing exactly as designed. 50 years of Earth's best scientists and engineers had worked in secret to create this technology. The project had cost more than all previous human space programs combined, but seeing it work made every penny worthwhile. You're bluffing, came another alien voice. Even if you could harness stellar energy, one ship against 200 is still hopeless. You're right about the numbers, Jake admitted. But you're making the same mistake everyone does when they meet humans for the first time. What mistake is that? You assume we think like you do? Jake's voice remained calm and friendly. You brought 200 ships because you wanted to intimidate us with overwhelming force. But in doing so, You've positioned your entire combined fleet in perfect formation. The alien communications channels erupted with angry voices as fleet commanders suddenly understood what Jake meant. They had arranged themselves in 3 tight rings around the Liberty, concentrating all their ships in one small area of space. "Spread the fleet," Admiral Korex shouted to his commanders. "All ships disperse immediately." But it was too late. The alien ships were massive and heavily armored, which made them slow to maneuver. The tight formation that had seemed so impressive now became a trap they had built for themselves. "Stellar compression cannon at 60%, Adams reported. The Liberty's crystalline arrays were blazing like miniature suns now. The energy flowing from the star created visible streams of light that hurt to look at directly. Space itself seemed to bend and twist around the focusing crystals as they prepared to compress stellar energy into a weapon. "This is impossible," Admiral Korex repeated, but his voice had lost its confident tone. "No civilization has ever developed such technology." "That's because no other civilization needed to," Jake replied. "You've all been content to build bigger versions of the same old weapons. Humans had to be creative because we started from behind." Dr. Peterson watched his instruments with growing excitement. "The quantum field resonance is perfect, Captain. We're achieving compression ratios beyond our best simulations." Several alien ships opened fire on the Liberty, desperate to stop whatever was happening. Bright energy beams and explosive projectiles struck the human ship from multiple directions, but instead of causing damage, something strange occurred. "Sir, their weapons fire is being absorbed by our quantum shield matrix," Betty Thompson reported with amazement. "The energy is being redirected into our charging system. The alien weapons were actually making the Liberty's cannon charge faster. Every shot fired at the human ship fed more power into the stellar compression system. The harder they attacked, the stronger humanity's weapon became." "Impossible," Admiral Korex whispered. "Stellar compression cannon at 80%, Adams announced." The space around the Liberty was no longer dark. The energy being drawn from the star had turned the area into a blazing field of light. The crystalline focusing arrays were so bright, they looked like small stars themselves. Jake felt the moment approaching, when humanity would show the galaxy what happened when you underestimated human determination and ingenuity. 50 years of preparation were about to pay off in the next few seconds. "All alien vessels, this is Captain Morrison," Jake said into the general communications channel. "You came here expecting to find weak prey. Instead, you found something else entirely." "What are you?" Admiral Korex asked, and for the first time his voice held fear instead of arrogance. "We're humans," Jake replied simply. "And we're done being underestimated." The stellar compression cannon reached 90% charge. Reality itself seemed to vibrate around the weapon as it prepared to release the contained power of a star. "Target acquired," Adams reported. "All alien vessels are locked in optimal firing pattern." Jake looked around his bridge one final time. His crew was ready. Earth was counting on them. The moment had come to show the galaxy that humanity would not be bullied or dismissed. "Fire," Jake ordered quietly. The universe held its breath. The stellar compression cannon fired. A beam of pure light erupted from the USS Liberty's crystalline arrays. It was not the red or blue energy that alien weapons produced. This was something else entirely. The beam looked like captured sunlight, compressed into a sword of blazing white energy that cut through the darkness of space. Captain Jake Morrison watched the main screen as the weapon reached its targets. The beam moved at the speed of light, crossing the distance to the alien fleet in less than a second. When it struck the first ring of enemy ships, something incredible happened. The massive Zalaxian warship simply vanished. There were no explosions, no dramatic fireballs or debris fields. The ships touched by the stellar energy beam were converted instantly from solid matter into scattered atoms and fading light. One moment, Admiral Korex's flagship was there, a kilometer of dark metal bristling with weapons. The next moment, there was only empty space where it had been. "My God," whispered Commander Lisa Rodriguez from her tactical station. The beam continued through the alien formation like a knife through paper. The Corvallian Federation's heavy cruisers disappeared as quickly as soap bubbles. The Thraxian Dominion's hunter squadrons were erased from existence without leaving so much as a scorch mark behind. Communications Officer Danny Walsh stared at his instruments in shock. "Sir, I'm reading complete energy conversion across the entire target zone. Every ship hit by the beam has been transformed into base particles. The stellar compression beam lasted exactly 3.7 seconds. When it ended, the space around the USS Liberty looked completely different. Where 200 alien warships had formed threatening rings of steel and firepower, now there was only the fading glow of dispersed energy." Jake counted the remaining enemy vessels on his tactical display. 18 ships had survived, all of them on the outer edges of the formation where the beam's energy had been weakest. These survivors were already turning away from the Liberty as fast as their engines could push them. "Sir, we're receiving multiple surrender transmissions," Danny reported, his voice shaking slightly. "The remaining ships are requesting immediate ceasefire." Jake said nothing for a long moment. He watched the sensor readings that showed where Admiral Corex's proud fleet had been moments before. The arrogant alien who had demanded humanity's submission was now nothing more than scattered atoms drifting in space. "Captain," Dr. Carl Peterson said quietly, "the weapon performed beyond our best projections. The stellar energy compression was more efficient than we calculated. We achieved nearly perfect matter-to-energy conversion across the entire target area." Lieutenant Commander Steve Adams looked up from his weapons console. "Sir, the cannon is already beginning to recharge. The star's energy is still flowing into our focusing arrays." "Stand down all weapons," Jake ordered. "Set the stellar compression system to standby mode." The blazing light around the Liberty began to fade as the quantum field generators reduced their draw on the star's corona. The crystalline arrays dimmed, but continued to glow softly, showing that the weapon system remained ready for immediate use. The bridge communications panel lit up with incoming messages. Danny Walsh worked quickly to sort through them. "Captain, I'm receiving priority transmissions from the Galactic Council Station. Multiple alien governments are requesting immediate diplomatic contact." "Any specific messages?" "Yes, sir. The Zalaxian Empire's Deputy Admiral is asking for emergency peace negotiations. The Corvallian Federation wants to discuss immediate withdrawal of all territorial demands. The Thraxian Dominion is requesting safe passage for their surviving ships." Jake almost smiled. The same alien powers who had been demanding humanity's surrender an hour ago were now begging for mercy. "Sir," Danny continued, "there's also a message from Ambassador Helen Carter aboard the station. She says the entire Galactic Council is in emergency session. They want to speak with you immediately." Before Jake could respond, a new voice came over the communications channel. It was shaky and filled with fear. "Human vessel, this is Captain Jex of the surviving Corvallian forces. Please respond." "This is Captain Morrison. Captain, we surrender completely. We did not know. We did not understand. Please allow us to withdraw our forces." "You're free to leave," Jake replied calmly. "Take your ships and go home." Thank you. Thank you. We will inform our government of our terrible mistake." One by one, the surviving alien ships turned and jumped to faster-than-light speed, fleeing the system as quickly as possible. Jake watched them go, knowing that each ship carried terrified crew members who would spread the word across the galaxy. "Danny, open a channel to the Galactic Council Station," Jake ordered. The main screen showed the council chamber, but it looked very different from before. The seats that had been filled with arrogant alien delegates were now mostly empty. Those who remained looked shocked and frightened. The jellyfish-like chairman floated at the center of the chamber, its voice trembling as it spoke. "Captain Morrison, the Galactic Council formally requests immediate peace negotiations." "I'm listening," Jake said. We wish to apologize for the hostile actions taken against your vessel. The attacks on the USS Liberty were unauthorized and do not represent the will of the Council." Jake knew that was a lie. Every alien government had supported the attack until they saw what happened to their fleets, but he decided to let them save face. "We also wish to formally grant humanity full membership in the Galactic Council," the chairman continued, "with no conditions or requirements. Earth will have complete autonomy over all its territories and military forces. That's very generous, Jake replied. Ambassador Helen Carter appeared on another part of the screen. Her face showed amazement, mixed with pride. Captain, I've been fielding requests from dozens of alien governments. They all want to establish immediate diplomatic relations with Earth. Any particular reason for the sudden interest? They want to make sure they're on humanity's good side, she said with a slight smile. Several species are offering technology exchanges and trade agreements. A few are asking if Earth needs any military allies. Jake nodded. The demonstration had achieved its purpose. Humanity was no longer seen as weak prey but as a powerful force that commanded respect. Sir, Lisa Rodriguez spoke up from her tactical station. I'm detecting multiple ships approaching the system. They're broadcasting Earth military identification codes. That would be Fleet Admiral Collins, Jake said. I suspect he's coming. To make sure our message was properly received. As if summoned by his words, Collins appeared on the communication screen. The old admiral's weathered face showed satisfaction. Well done, Captain Morrison. I trust the diplomatic situation has improved. Considerably, sir. The Galactic Council has granted humanity full membership with no conditions. Excellent. And, our new neighbors understand the situation? Jake looked at the empty space where 200 enemy warships had been minutes before. I believe they have a clear understanding of humanity's position, sir. Collins nodded approvingly. Good. It's time the galaxy learned that underestimating human determination comes with consequences. The USS Liberty hung in space, surrounded now by the approaching ships of Earth's fleet rather than hostile aliens. In one devastating moment, humanity had transformed from galactic outcasts to a power that no one would dare challenge again. 3 days after the destruction of the alien fleet, the Galactic Council convened the largest emergency session in its 1,000-year history. Representatives from every known species had traveled to the council station, many arriving in ships that moved faster than their governments had ever pushed them before. Captain Jake Morrison sat in the human delegation section, no longer relegated to the small area marked for new members. The council had given humanity prime seating in the center of the chamber, where only the most powerful civilizations were allowed to sit. The chamber buzzed with nervous conversation in dozens of alien languages. Jake noticed how many delegates kept glancing toward the human section with expressions that mixed fear, respect, and curiosity. The mocking laughter that had filled the room during their first visit was completely absent. Ambassador Helen Carter leaned over to whisper to Jake. I've received formal apologies from 47 different governments since yesterday. Most of them are offering gifts and trade agreements. Any mention of the missing fleets? Jake asked quietly. They're calling it an unfortunate misunderstanding. Helen replied with a slight smile. Amazing how quickly aggression becomes misunderstanding when your warships turn into scattered atoms. The floating jellyfish chairman called the session to order. We gather today to formally welcome humanity as a full member of the Galactic Council and to address the new realities of our shared galaxy. A tall alien with 4 arms stood up from the Corvellian section. Jake recognized him as Deputy Prime, Minister Yeltak, who had taken over after their government's leaders disappeared with Admiral Korex's fleet. Chairman, the Corvellian Federation wishes to make a formal statement, Yeltak said. His voice carried none of the arrogance that had marked their previous representatives. The floor recognizes Deputy Prime Minister Yeltak. We acknowledge that our recent actions toward humanity were based on incomplete information and poor judgment. The Corvellian Federation formally withdraws all territorial claims against human colonies and offers our sincerest apologies for the hostile actions taken by our military forces. Murmurs of agreement came from around the chamber. One by one, other alien representatives stood to make similar statements. The Thraxian Dominion offered to share their star charts with Earth. The Vegan Trade Union proposed exclusive commercial agreements. Even species that Jake had never heard of were volunteering resources and assistance. Thank you all, Jake said when called upon to respond. Humanity appreciates these gestures of friendship. However, I want to make something clear. The chamber fell completely silent. Every alien delegate focused on Jake's words. Earth did not develop stellar compression technology for conquest or intimidation. We created it because we refused to be victims. Jake's voice remained calm but firm. We came to this council seeking peace and cooperation. When threatened with subjugation, we defended ourselves. Nothing more, nothing less. Captain Morrison asked a delegate from the Centauri Alliance, "Does Earth intend to share this technology with allied species?" Before Jake could answer, Fleet Admiral Henry Collins entered the chamber. The old admiral walked with confidence past hundreds of alien representatives who watched his every step. Behind him came a small group of human officers and scientists. "Chairman, I request permission to address the council," Collins said. "Permission granted, Admiral Collins." Collins activated a holographic display that showed images of Earth's shipyards. The aliens gasped as they saw dozens of vessels under construction, each one larger than the USS Liberty. "The Liberty was our prototype," Collins announced. "Earth's shipyards are now producing the Constellation-class stellar vessels. These ships incorporate lessons learned from the Liberty's successful field test." The hologram showed sleek ships with crystalline arrays built into their hulls from the beginning. Unlike the Liberty's retractable arrays, these vessels were designed from the ground up to harness stellar energy. However, Collins continued, these new ships are primarily designed for exploration and peaceful purposes. The stellar compression technology has applications far beyond warfare. Dr. Carl Peterson stepped forward with another holographic display. "We've developed stellar energy for faster-than-light communication, planetary terraforming, and deep space construction projects. The same principles that power our weapons can be used to build and create rather than destroy." An excited alien scientist from the Andorian Research Collective stood up. "Dr. Peterson, would humanity consider joint research projects? Our mathematical models suggest that stellar manipulation could revolutionize space travel itself." "We're always interested in scientific cooperation," Peterson replied, "but we'll be selective about our partners." The message was clear without being stated directly. Humanity would work with species that showed respect and offered genuine partnership. Those who had supported the attack on the Liberty would need to rebuild trust through actions, not words. "Admiral Collins," the chairman asked, "what are Earth's intentions regarding military expansion?" "Earth has no desire for conquest," Collins replied, "but we will defend ourselves and our allies without hesitation. Any species that threatens human colonies or shipping will discover that the Liberty's demonstration was just the beginning." Jake watched the alien delegates absorb this information. The galaxy's balance of power had shifted permanently. Humanity was no longer the new kid hoping for acceptance. They were now a major force that others had to consider in their plans. Over the following weeks, the changes became obvious throughout the galaxy. Trade routes that had ignored human space now made regular stops at Earth colonies. Scientific expeditions that had excluded humans now begged for human participation. Military alliances that had dismissed Earth's capabilities now offered mutual defense pacts. 6 months later, Jake found himself commanding the USS Endeavour, one of the new Constellation-class vessels. Instead of facing hostile alien fleets, he was leading a joint exploration mission to the galaxy's outer rim. His crew included volunteers from 12 different species, all eager to work alongside humanity. "Captain," Communications Officer Danny Walsh called from his station, "we're receiving a priority message from the Zalaxian Exploration Service. They're requesting permission to join our survey of the Titan Nebula." Jake smiled. The same Zalaxian Empire that had sent Admiral Corex to destroy them was now asking for permission to participate in human-led missions. "Tell them they're welcome to join us," Jake replied. "But remind them that this is a peaceful scientific mission. Any vessel that arrives with active weapons will be asked to leave." "Understood, sir." Commander Lisa Rodriguez looked up from her tactical station. "Sir, I'm detecting an uncharted system ahead. Multiple planets, possibly habitable." "Take us in for a closer look," Jake ordered, "and signal our alien partners. Let's see what we can discover together." The USS Endeavour moved forward into unexplored space, leading a fleet of former enemies who had become cautious allies. Behind them, the galaxy had learned a lesson that would never be forgotten. Humanity might appear weak to those who judged by size and appearance, but underestimating human determination was a mistake that civilizations only made once. In the depths of space, Jake Morrison smiled as he watched alien and human crew members working side by side. They had achieved something better than victory. They had earned respect, and with it the chance to explore the universe as equals rather than servants. The galaxy was vast and full of wonders waiting to be discovered. And now, thanks to one moment of terrible demonstration, humanity would face those wonders with the respect and partnership they had always deserved.